Yeah, the connection between anything mechanical and preferably of high quality always interests me. So the cars which were built a long time ago with fairly simple parts and watches are of great interest to take apart and put together. Aston Martins, that's a story again. When I was only 1.5 years old, my father had to sell his Aston Martin to put me in a safe seat in the back of a sedan car. So when older, we got together and bought an Aston, something similar to he'd had earlier, and we started doing some racing on the hill climb circuits in England. We found a second Aston, one with an interesting history. It had been the motor, the engine inside the car had been in a car used by Prince Bera, a famous racing driver in the 1930s. We spent a lot of time doing that, and eventually I brought one of the cars to Holland and is now in Holland, and the other one is in England, going through a restoration at the moment. The one in Holland had, in 1995, blew up the engine because of a block in the oil pipes, and that had to be restored. So I did part of the work myself, but mostly took the main parts back to England to have them fitted and brought it back to Holland. Yes, work on the cars has been always interest and how it's fitting together and how to repair it. I've used mostly experts to help, but disassembled and rebuilt the brakes, rebuilt the engine head, taken off and put it back, carburetors, radiator I've replaced. The starter motor had been rewound, the magneto, various parts at various times needed attention. But at the moment the car in Holland is working quite well and has been going well since it was rebuilt. The engine was rebuilt in 1997. Yeah, how did I get here? How did I get to Holland? I was working in London as an architect, came to Holland for 6 months for a particular project. I completed that project, but about 2 weeks before I was due to go back to London, I met a girl and stayed here with, became my wife and had 2 children, and so the history continued there in Holland. At the time I was working as an architect, but when I came to Holland I turned that into working for a large building company, and I continued to do that for a number of years. And then I started watchmaking, so aside from my other work. And my very first job in 1965 was selling watches for the Crown Jewellers in London. And so I came back to the interest again at a later life, started watchmaking, started doing courses. I completed the Schoonhoven courses, and then subsequently I've been working with different brands and working on my own watch repairs. In the course of that I came across Michiel via Carla Slaap, who I worked for a long time with. And Michiel had an opening. He'd just finished his studies as an architect and decided he was going to be a watchmaker. He had very big plans, and I thought, this is interesting, but yeah, it sounds like a lot of talk. But within a very short time I realized that Michiel was going in a different direction. He was going full out to create some fantastic designs, and his way of seeing things without any preconception of exactly how it should be, and makes one of his strong points of being able to create something new and at the same time with a very traditional style and fashion. And always, as I've seen him, is dressed as an English gentleman, so that's something that I could relate to fairly easily. And yeah, so everything in his atelier, his workshops, is slightly different from anything else, and very interesting to follow everything that's going on.